fluffy surprise. Dust devils danced across the cracked asphalt of the county road, mirroring the frantic skittering of a small, forlorn creature. Lily slowed her jeep, squinting against the glare. It was a dog, no bigger than a loaf of bread, its fur a chaotic explosion of white and brown patches. It looked utterly lost. She pulled over, killing the engine. The sudden silence seemed to amplify the dog's distress. It yelped, a high-pitched, almost bird-like sound, and took a tentative step back. "Hey there, little one," Lily said softly, opening the door slowly. "It's okay. I won't hurt you." The dog trembled, its tail tucked so far under it was practically touching its belly. Lily remembered the animal handling techniques her mentor, Dr. Evans, had drilled into her head. Slow movements, gentle voice, no sudden reaches. She crouched down, extending a hand, palm up. "Come here, boy. Are you hungry?" She tossed a granola bar into her bag that morning. Maybe a nibble would coax him closer. She rummaged around, finally locating the bar, and tore off a small piece, holding it out. The dog watched her, its brown eyes wide and wary. The wind ruffled its fur, revealing ribs that pressed too sharply against its skin. He was definitely hungry. After a long moment, it crept forward, nose twitching, and snatched the piece of granola bar from her hand. He devoured it in one gulp, then looked up at her expectantly. "Good boy," Lily said, offering another piece. He took it more readily this time. Lily continued feeding him small bites, inching closer with each offering. Finally, when she was close enough, she gently reached out and stroked his head. He flinched but didn't pull away. Lily continued to stroke him, talking in a soothing voice. "Purr baby. You're all alone, aren't you?" She could feel his heart hammering against his ribs. After a few minutes, she slowly stood up. "Come on," she said, opening the passenger door. "Let's get you somewhere safe." The dog hesitated, then, with a burst of courage, he leaped into the Jeep. Lily smiled. "That's a good boy." The drive back to the ranch was quiet. The dog, now seemingly calmer, curled up on the passenger seat, resting his chin on his paws. Lily glanced at him occasionally, a wave of sympathy washing over her. He was a mess, matted fur, dirty paws, and that lost, bewildered look in his eyes. Back at the house, Lily parked and gently lifted the dog out of the Jeep. He seemed a little unsure on his feet. "Okay, little one," she said. "Let's get you cleaned up." She led him into the house and directly to the laundry room. Her own dogs, a boisterous pair of Australian shepherds, were thankfully outside, oblivious to the new arrival. She didn't want to overwhelm him. Lily filled a tub with lukewarm water and gently coaxed the dog into it. He whined a little at first, but seemed to relax as she carefully poured water over him, working up a lather with a mild dog shampoo. The water quickly turned brown with dirt. As she rinsed him, she noticed the unique pattern of his fur more clearly. He was mostly white, but splattered with patches of brown, large ones on his back, smaller ones around his face and paws. "You look like you've been painted by a toddler," she murmured, chuckling. Once he was clean and towel-dried, his fur looked surprisingly soft and fluffy. Lily brushed him gently, removing the last of the mats and tangles. He stood patiently, occasionally licking her hand. "You're a handsome little guy, aren't you?" she said, scratching him behind the ears. "I think I'll call you Patches." After his bath, Lily led Patches to the kitchen. She put down a bowl of fresh water and a small portion of kibble. He devoured the food in seconds, then lapped up the water. "Easy there," Lily said, smiling. "Don't want you getting a tummy ache." He looked up at her, tail wagging tentatively. Lily knelt down and gave him a hug. "Don't worry, Patches," she said. "We'll find your owners. But until then, you're safe here." As Patches explored the kitchen, sniffing at everything with curious interest, Lily pulled out her laptop. Time to post some found dog notices online. She took several pictures of Patches, highlighting his unique markings, and composed a brief description. She hoped someone would recognize him soon. A nagging feeling tugged at her. Patches seemed too well-behaved to be a stray. And those ribs? He hadn't been lost for just a day or two. Where had he been? And why wasn't anyone looking for him? She pushed the thought aside. For now, Patches was safe, warm, and fed. That was all that mattered. She just hoped his owners were out there, missing him as much as he probably missed them. But something told her this fluffy surprise had a bigger story to tell. The HOA president arrives. The morning light, glancing off Patches' snow-white coat, ignited Agnes Higgins' simmering displeasure. From her usual vigil, peeking through the lace curtains, she nearly choked on her Earl Grey. The creature was undeniably on Lily Rodriguez's property, not simply passing through, but sprawled across the verdant lawn as if born to it. Agnes snatched her binoculars, the ceramic cool against her hand. Focus. Yes, a dog. A rather disreputable, unlicensed dog. The gall. Her blood pressure, already elevated by the headlines, surged dangerously. Slamming the binoculars down, the china trembled. This simply wouldn't do. Regulations were regulations. And those regulations enshrined in the HOA Handbook Section 4, Paragraph B, Subsection 2, in case Ms. Rodriguez needed reminding, which she clearly did, stipulated that all pets required HOA registration and were subject to breed and dimension limitations. Agnes was certain, judging by the air of nonchalant bliss emanating from the mutt, it would fail the stringent breed criteria. Smoothly adjusting her floral-printed frock, Agnes straightened her spine and marched towards the door, her orthopedic shoes tapping a resolute rhythm on the pavement. What was usually a pleasant stroll to Lily's felt like traversing hostile territory. Each precisely sculpted shrub, each identical bloom, seemed to taunt her rule-abiding nature. Reaching Lily's butter-yellow bungalow, she inhaled deeply, preparing for combat. Then, with a force surprising for her diminutive frame, Agnes Higgins rapped sharply on the door. Lily opened it, a flicker of surprise in her eyes. Agnes? Good morning. Is something amiss? Amiss. Agnes' voice possessed the tautness of a drawn bowstring. Amiss? I hardly think so, Ms. Rodriguez. I witnessed it. From my window. That animal. Lily's expression shifted from polite inquiry to guarded neutrality. Patches? He's only visiting. Visiting? Do not insult my intelligence. He was lounging about as if he owned the place. And I assure you, no unregistered animal will despoil a lawn in this community under my watch as HOA president. Agnes puffed out her chest, her voice escalating a notch. Lily sighed, a low sound, yet potent enough to make Agnes bristle. Agnes, he's harmless. He's a rescue. I'm just helping him find a permanent home. That is all well and good, Ms. Rodriguez, but our rules are unequivocal, no unregistered pets. And frankly, Agnes leaned forward, voice dropping to a hushed intensity, I highly doubt that creature meets our breed standards. He looks of uncertain provenance. Of uncertain provenance? Lily arched a brow, her tone hardening. He's a sweetheart. And breed is irrelevant. Regulations remain, Ms. Rodriguez. And I intend to uphold them. I shall now require access to your yard to assess the situation. Agnes attempted to push past Lily, but Lily stood firm. Inspect my yard? I think not, Agnes. I haven't granted permission. Permission? This is a matter of HOA compliance. I am fully empowered to ensure our community standards are maintained. Agnes' face flushed crimson, her small eyes blazing with righteous fury. Lily crossed her arms, her stance unwavering. I believe you need a warrant to search my property, Agnes. The word warrant hung heavily in the air, a sudden shift in the balance of power. Agnes sputtered, momentarily thrown. A warrant? For a dog? Absurd. Yet a seed of doubt had taken root. She hadn't foreseen resistance. She hadn't factored in the need for paperwork. Patches, hearing the raised voices, sauntered to the doorway, tail thumping a happy rhythm. He nudged Lily's leg, offering a wet, enthusiastic lick. Agnes recoiled, clutching her chest. Remove that beast. Lily knelt and scratched Patches behind his ears, her gaze unwavering. He's not hurting anyone, Agnes. He simply requires a little kindness. Agnes huffed, her shoulders sagging slightly. This is far from over, Ms. Rodriguez. I shall consult the HOA bylaws. And I shall return. Turning sharply, her orthopedic shoes beat a hasty tattoo on the pavement. The battle, it would appear, had just commenced. A polite refusal. Good morning, Agnes, Lily said, her voice steady despite the knot forming in her stomach. Patches, oblivious to the tension, wagged his tail, nudging Lily's leg with his wet nose. Agnes Higgins stood ramrod straight on Lily's porch, her floral dress a jarring contrast to the storm brewing in her eyes. The morning sun glinted off the oversized glasses perched on her nose. Good morning? I hardly think so, Ms. Rodriguez. We received a complaint. Lily crossed her arms, subtly shielding Patches. About the animal. Agnes's lip curled slightly as she said the word. Roaming free. Disrupting the peace. Potentially unvaccinated. The list goes on. He's not roaming free, Agnes. He's with me. And he's not staying. Lily's voice remained calm, a deliberate counterpoint to Agnes's rising agitation. He's a temporary guest. A lost dog, actually. I'm actively looking for his owners. Agnes's eyes narrowed. A temporary guest? For how long? The bylaws are very clear about unregistered animals. 24 hours. Maximum. I've had him for 3 days, Lily admitted, holding Agnes's gaze. But I've been posting flyers, checking online lost and found sites. I'm doing everything I can to locate his family. Doing everything you can is hardly the point, Ms. Rodriguez. The point is you are in violation. And frankly, Agnes sniffed, her gaze sweeping over Patches. He doesn't look particularly well cared for. Are you even feeding him properly? The implication stung. Of course I'm feeding him. He's getting plenty of food and water. He's been fed the same organic kibble as our dearly departed Winston, who, as you may recall, won Best Groomed Pooch at the annual HOA picnic 3 years running. Agnes's face flushed a blotchy red. That is beside the point. I need to inspect your yard. Ensure the animal hasn't damaged anything. And to ascertain that you are, in fact, searching for the owners and not simply harboring a stray. Lily's grip tightened on her arm. Inspect my yard? I'm sorry, Agnes, but I can't allow that. Can't allow it? I am the HOA president. I have a right to ensure compliance. Agnes's voice was rising, attracting the attention of Mrs. Henderson across the street, who peeked out from behind her curtains. You have a right to enforce the bylaws, Lily corrected, her voice firm. But you don't have the right to enter my property without a warrant. I am complying with the spirit of the rules. I'm actively trying to find his owners. I'm keeping him contained. And I assure you, my yard is perfectly fine. No damage whatsoever. Agnes sputtered, her carefully coiffed hair practically vibrating. Are you refusing me access? Are you defying the HOA? I'm exercising my right to privacy, Lily stated, her voice unwavering. I understand your concern, Agnes, but I'm not comfortable with you just walking onto my property. If you have a legitimate reason to believe I'm causing damage or violating the law, then you can get a warrant. Agnes's eyes narrowed to slits. This is not over, Ms. Rodriguez. Not by a long shot. You will be hearing from the HOA. And don't think this little charade will go unpunished. She spun on her heel, her floral dress billowing behind her like a vengeful sail. And keep that thing on a leash, she called over her shoulder, marching back towards her pristine, meticulously manicured lawn. Lily watched her go, her chest tight. Patches whined softly, sensing her unease. She knelt down and scratched behind his ears. Don't worry, boy, she murmured. We'll figure this out. But as she watched Agnes's retreating figure, she couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. The polite refusal had clearly been received and the war was about to begin. Threats and accusations. Agnes Higgins' face was the color of a bruised plum. The late afternoon sun glinted off her oversized glasses as she jabbed a finger in Lily's direction. This is unacceptable, Ms. Rodriguez. Completely unacceptable. I warned you about that thing. Lily stood her ground on the porch, Patches a solid, furry presence pressed against her leg. The Bernese mountain dog, usually a picture of calm, rumbled a low growl in his chest, sensing Lily's tension. A robin chirped nervously from a branch overhead, disturbed by the rising volume. He's not a thing, Agnes. He's Patches, and he's a well-behaved dog. Lily's voice was tight, controlled, but a tremor of anger vibrated beneath the surface. Well-behaved? He's illegal. And I'm telling you right now, you're in violation of HOA Regulation 3. 2b. Large breeds are restricted and I have photographic evidence of his bulk. Agnes puffed out her chest, her tailored suit straining at the buttons. You'll be receiving a notice of violation, Ms. Rodriguez. And I assure you the fines will be substantial. They escalate with each day of noncompliance. The threat hung in the air, thick and unpleasant. Lily felt a flush creep up her neck. Fines? For what? He's not hurting anyone. He stays in the yard. He's friendly with the neighbors. Friendly? That beast is intimidating. Little Timmy Henderson across the street is terrified to walk past your house. His mother called me this morning, practically in tears. Agnes' voice rose another notch, cracking slightly. Do you realize you're lowering property values with that monstrosity? People don't want to live near a dangerous animal. Dangerous? He's never bitten anyone. He licks people. You're exaggerating, Agnes, and you know it. Patches, sensing the shift in tone, nudged Lily's hand with his wet nose. She scratched behind his ears, grounding herself. The scent of lavender from the porch planters filled her nostrils, a small comfort. Don't tell me what I know. I've seen him. Lunging at the fence, barking like a hellhound. He's a menace, Ms. Rodriguez, a menace. And I, as president of this HOA, will not stand for it. I will not allow one resident to jeopardize the safety and property values of the entire community. Agnes' voice echoed across the manicured lawns. A curtain twitched in a nearby window. Lily took a deep breath. He barks at squirrels, Agnes. He's a dog. That's what they do. And for the record, Patches is registered as an emotional support animal. My doctor prescribed him. It was a half-truth. She was diagnosed with mild anxiety, but she hadn't obtained any official paperwork making Patches an official service animal, at least not yet. Agnes scoffed, the sound sharp and dismissive. Emotional support? That's just a loophole people use to get away with breaking the rules. It's a sham, Ms. Rodriguez, a blatant attempt to circumvent the regulations. She pulled a small, leather-bound notebook from her purse and flipped through it with a theatrical flourish. Let me remind you of Section 4. 1A. The HOA reserves the right to determine the suitability of any animal residing within the community. And frankly, that dog is not suitable. Lily's hands clenched into fists. You can't just decide that. He's part of my family. I'm not getting rid of him. Agnes slammed the notebook shut. Then prepare to face the consequences, Ms. Rodriguez. I'll see to it that you regret this. And don't think your little emotional support charade will protect you. We'll have him assessed by a professional. I guarantee you he'll fail. And then her voice dropped to a low, venomous hiss. Then we'll see how attached you are to your pet. She turned abruptly and marched back to her golf cart, leaving Lily standing on the porch, Patches' warm fur a small comfort against the chill that had settled over the evening. Calling the police. I will not allow you on my property, Agnes. Lily's voice, though level, vibrated with controlled fury. Patches, sensing her agitation, nudged her leg, a low growl rumbling in his chest. Agnes Higgins' face, already flushed with indignation, deepened to a mottled purple. The afternoon sun glinted off her oversized sunglasses, making her eyes seem like dark, impenetrable voids. You are obstructing my duty as HOA president. I have a right to inspect for violations. You have no right to trespass, Lily countered, standing her ground at the edge of the gravel driveway. The scent of sunbaked earth and blooming jasmine hung heavy in the air, a stark contrast to the brewing storm of their confrontation. She could feel the grit of the driveway beneath her bare feet, grounding her. Patches is not a violation. He's a member of our family. Agnes puffed out her chest. He exceeds the weight limit, and I highly doubt he's registered with the association. She jabbed a finger in Lily's direction. This is a clear breach of regulations, and I will not tolerate it. I've had enough of your defiance, Ms. Rodriguez. Lily crossed her arms, the gesture doing little to soothe the tension coiled tight in her shoulders. Then I suggest you file a formal complaint. But you are not stepping 1 foot onto my property. Oh, I will do more than file a complaint, Agnes spat, her voice rising in pitch. A hummingbird, startled by the noise, zipped away from the honeysuckle bush clinging to the porch. I am calling the police. You are refusing me access, you have an unregistered dog, and you are being obstructive. I'll have you know I have friends on the force. Lily almost smiled. The woman clearly hadn't done her homework. Go right ahead, Agnes. Call them. She leaned against the porch railing, the weathered wood cool against her skin. Patches settled at her feet, his amber eyes fixed on Agnes, a silent sentinel. Agnes fumbled in her oversized purse, retrieving her phone with trembling hands. Don't think you're so clever, Ms. Rodriguez. You'll be singing a different tune when they arrive. She stabbed at the screen with a manicured nail, her lips pursed in a tight, self-righteous line. Lily could hear the tinny ringing of the phone through the warm afternoon air. Lily watched her, a strange calm settling over her. The cicadas buzzed in the distance, their drone a constant, unwavering hum. She knew exactly who would answer that call. She pictured Maria, her wife, sitting behind her desk at the station, probably dealing with something far more important than a petty HOA dispute. Agnes finally spoke into the phone, her voice dripping with false sweetness. Yes, hello? I need to report a disturbance. A blatant disregard for HOA regulations. An obstruction of justice. She cast a triumphant glance at Lily. Lily closed her eyes for a moment, breathing in the scent of the jasmine. She could almost feel Maria's presence beside her, the comforting weight of her hand on her shoulder. When she opened her eyes, her gaze was steady, unwavering. You know, Agnes, she said, her voice quiet but firm, you're making a very big mistake. Agnes ignored her, continuing her dramatic recounting of the situation to the 911 operator. She embellished liberally, painting herself as a victim of Lily's aggressive behavior and Patches as a menacing beast. Lily listened with a detached amusement, knowing the reality would soon become clear. The call ended with a flourish. They're on their way, Agnes announced, snapping her phone shut. We'll see who's laughing then. She crossed her arms, a smug expression on her face. Lily simply nodded, the corners of her mouth twitching. We will. She settled onto the porch swing, the gentle creaking a counterpoint to the simmering tension in the air. Patches rested his head on her lap, his warm fur a comforting presence. They waited. The only sound was the buzzing of the cicadas and the distant rumble of an approaching vehicle. The police arrive. The patrol car idled at the curb, a low hum in the otherwise quiet cul-de-sac. Officer Miller adjusted his stiff new uniform, the fabric itching against his neck. Beside him, Officer Reynolds, a woman built like a linebacker, simply stared straight ahead, her expression unreadable. He hated these kinds of calls, the neighborhood disputes, the petty squabbles that ate up their time. 314 Maplewood, Miller murmured, double-checking the address on the dispatch screen. Animal complaint. Reynolds grunted. Probably a chihuahua barking too loud. Miller swallowed, the lump in his throat familiar. He was still so new, barely 6 months out of the academy. Every interaction felt like a test he was perpetually failing. He cleared his throat. Dispatch said, potentially dangerous animal. Possible violation of HOA regulations. As if on cue, a figure detached itself from the manicured lawn of number 310 and hurried toward the patrol car. It was Agnes Higgins, her face flushed with excitement, her gray hair escaping the confines of her precisely sculpted bob. Officers, thank goodness you're here. Agnes practically vibrated with indignation, her voice tight with suppressed fury. It's about that woman. At 318. The Rodriguez woman. She stabbed a finger towards Lily's house, the gesture so forceful Miller feared she might dislocate something. Ma'am. Please? Miller began, trying to maintain a calm, professional tone. Can you tell us what seems to be the problem? Agnes puffed out her chest. A beacon of suburban righteousness. She's harboring a beast. A menace. A dog that's clearly against the HOA regulations. I've tried to reason with her, but she's utterly unreasonable. I suspect it's some sort of pit bull mix. Or worse. Reynolds finally spoke, her voice low and gravelly. Did you see the dog attack someone, ma'am? Agnes waved a dismissive hand. Not yet, but it's only a matter of time. I saw it in the yard yesterday. It was menacing and huge. It's clearly a danger to the community, especially the children. She glanced pointedly at a group of kids playing hopscotch down the street. Someone has to do something. Miller scribbled notes on his pad, the pen feeling awkward in his sweaty hand. He glanced at Reynolds, hoping for some guidance, but she remained impassive, a granite statue in police blue. He knew the drill. He had to follow procedure. All right, ma'am, Miller said, trying to sound authoritative. We'll go speak with Ms. Rodriguez and assess the situation. Thank you for bringing this to our attention. He offered a weak smile. Agnes beamed, her face smoothing into a mask of self-satisfaction. Oh, thank you, officers. I knew I could count on you. She watched with undisguised glee as Miller and Reynolds exited the vehicle. Miller felt a bead of sweat trickle down his temple as they walked toward Lily's house. The yard, unlike Agnes's pristine lawn, was a riot of color, overflowing with flowers and herbs. A small wooden sign read Rodriguez Family Garden. It didn't exactly scream den of dangerous beasts. He took a deep breath and approached the front door, Reynolds flanking him silently. He could feel Agnes's eyes boring into his back, her judgment a palpable weight. He rang the doorbell, the sound echoing in the afternoon calm. His heart hammered against his ribs. He hated these situations. He just wanted to help people, not be caught in the crossfire of petty neighborhood wars. Introducing Chief Johnson. Officer Miller's brow furrowed as he chewed on his lip, his eyes darting between Agnes, still sputtering indignantly about property lines and trespassers, and the calm, almost serene figure of Lily. Okay, ma'am, he said to Agnes, his voice cracking slightly. He cleared his throat. Let's hear the other side of the story. Lily sighed, the sound barely audible over Agnes's continued complaints about that eyesore of offense and disrespect for the HOA. She turned to Officer Miller, her expression patient. Officer, my name is Lily Rodriguez. This woman, she gestured towards Agnes, is Agnes Peterson, president of the HOA. She believes my fence encroaches on common property. I assure you it doesn't. I had a survey done before it was installed. I also believe Ms. Peterson is upset about the recent addition of rescued horses to my property. Miller scribbled something in his notepad, his penmanship shaky. And you have documentation of the survey, ma'am? Of course. It's in the house. Agnes scoffed. Oh, I'm sure it is. Probably forged. Miller flinched. He swallowed hard, looking from Lily to Agnes, clearly out of his depth. He was young, fresh out of the academy, and the tension crackling in the air felt thick enough to cut with a knife. He remembered his training, the part about remaining impartial, about gathering all the facts. "Miss Peterson," he said, his voice a little firmer this time, "please let Ms. Rodriguez speak." Lily continued, "Ms. Peterson has been harassing me since I moved in. She insists on inspecting my property without my permission. She even tried to climb my fence earlier." Miller's eyes widened. Climb the fence." He scribbled furiously in his notebook. Suddenly, his eyes snapped up, focusing on Lily with a newfound intensity. "Rodriguez?" he asked, his voice a touch higher than before. "Lily Everything will be. Would you mind if I gave her a call? This is getting a little ridiculous." Miller practically jumped at the suggestion. "Oh, yes, ma'am. Absolutely. That would be great." He stepped back, giving her plenty of space. Lily pulled out her phone and quickly dialed Maria's number. It rang twice before she answered. "Hey, babe," Lily said, her voice warm. "Got a little situation here. Agnes is at it again." There was a pause on the other end. Then Maria's voice, laced with a hint of amusement. "Agnes? What's she done now?" "She called the police, Maria. Officer Miller is here, looking a little lost. I think you need to come down here and explain to her, in your official capacity, that she can't just harass people because she doesn't like their landscaping." Another pause. "All right," Maria said, her tone shifting, becoming more serious. "I'm on my way." Lily hung up the phone and turned back to Officer Miller, who was still fidgeting nervously. Agnes, sensing a shift in the power dynamic, had quieted down, her face a mask of barely concealed irritation. It wasn't long before the unmistakable wail of a police siren echoed in the distance, growing louder with each passing second. A black and white patrol car, its lights flashing, pulled up to the curb, kicking up a cloud of dust. The car door swung open and Maria Johnson stepped out. She was in uniform, her dark hair pulled back in a tight braid, her expression a mixture of concern and confusion. Her eyes scanned the scene, taking in Lily, Agnes, and the visibly relieved Officer Miller. She walked towards them, her movements purposeful, radiating an aura of authority that even Agnes seemed to recognize. "Lily, what's going on?" she asked, her voice firm but gentle. Then her gaze shifted to Agnes, her eyebrows arching slightly. "Miss Peterson, is there a problem?" A humiliating apology. Agnes Higgins's face was a monument to indignation, a veritable Mount Rushmore of disapproval carved in wrinkles and pursed lips. She stood planted on the meticulously manicured lawn, arms crossed so tightly her knuckles shone white. Officer Miller, bless his heart, looked like he wanted to disappear into the immaculately trimmed hedges. The black SUV crunched to a halt beside them and a woman emerged who radiated authority. "Chief Johnson." Agnes puffed up like a poisoned pufferfish ready to unleash her venom. But then Chief Johnson rounded the hood of the car and her face softened. A genuine smile bloomed as she approached. "Lily?" Agnes's jaw dropped. She watched in stunned silence as Chief Johnson embraced Lily, planting a kiss on her cheek. "Lily Rodriguez, you haven't changed a bit." Lily, looking sheepish but relieved, returned the hug. "Maria, it's so good to see you." Agnes sputtered, finally finding her voice. "Chief Johnson, I was just explaining to Officer Miller here about the egregious violation of HOA regulations and the clear and present danger posed by that beast." She gestured dramatically towards Patches, who was now happily gnawing on a discarded tennis ball, seemingly oblivious to the drama. Maria Johnson, her expression now all business, turned to Agnes. "Mrs. Higgins, I understand you have a complaint. Officer Miller, perhaps you could give us a moment." Officer Miller, looking immensely grateful, practically sprinted back to his patrol car. Maria's gaze was unwavering as she focused on Agnes. "Now, Mrs. Higgins, why don't you tell me what happened from your perspective?" Agnes launched into a tirade about unleashed dogs, property values, and the general decline of civilization, all fueled by Lily's blatant disregard for the rules. She painted Patches as a snarling, rabid monster ready to tear apart unsuspecting children and small yappy dogs alike. When Agnes finally ran out of steam, Maria turned to Lily, her voice calm and even. "Lily, what's your side of the story?" Lily explained about the fenced yard, the short walk to the mailbox, and Patches's gentle nature. She emphasized that he was never unattended and posed no threat to anyone. Maria listened intently, her eyes flicking between the two women. When Lily finished, she sighed softly. "Mrs. Higgins," she said, her voice losing its playful edge, "I understand your concerns, but Lily is within her rights. The HOA regulations clearly state that dogs must be leashed unless they are within a fenced enclosure or on the owner's property. Lily's property is fenced and she was merely walking to the mailbox. Furthermore, she added, her voice hardening slightly, Patches is clearly not a danger to anyone. Agnes opened her mouth to protest, but Maria cut her off. I've seen the dog myself, Mrs. Higgins. He seems quite well behaved. Maria leaned in slightly, her voice softening again, but with an undercurrent of steel. I'm afraid you owe Lily an apology, Mrs. Higgins, for wasting police time and making false accusations. The color drained from Agnes's face. The humiliation was almost palpable. She stammered, but the property values, Maria raised an eyebrow. That's not the issue here, Mrs. Higgins. The issue is respecting the law and your neighbors. Agnes swallowed hard, her lips trembling. I suppose I was mistaken. She turned to Lily, her gaze darting away. I apologize, Miss Rodriguez. I seem to have overreacted. The words tasted like ash in her mouth. Lily, ever the gracious one, simply nodded. Apology accepted, Mrs. Higgins. Maria clapped Agnes on the shoulder, a gesture that felt more like a warning than a friendly touch. Excellent. Now, I suggest we all try to be a little more neighborly, shall we? She watched as Agnes, thoroughly deflated, scurried back to her perfectly manicured lawn, her head bowed in defeat. Maria gave Lily's hand a quick squeeze. I'll catch up with you later. We have so much to talk about. She then turned and strode back to her SUV, leaving Lily standing on the lawn, a mixture of relief and amusement on her face. Happy endings. Lily scrolled through the comments on her social media post, a hopeful flutter in her chest. The picture of Patches, his goofy grin somehow amplified by the phone's camera, had gone viral in their little corner of the internet. Dozens of people had shared it, many offering to foster him temporarily. But Lily was holding out for one specific response. And then she saw it. Oh my God, that's Patches. He ran off yesterday during the fireworks. We've been looking everywhere. The comment was from an account named Sarah Miller 79. Lily clicked on the profile. Several pictures confirmed it. Sarah, her husband, and 2 young children all beaming alongside a scruffy terrier mix with a distinctive black patch over his left eye. It was him. Lily quickly messaged Sarah, exchanging details and confirming Patches as distinguishing marks. Sarah's relief was palpable through the screen. They arranged to meet at the police station in an hour. The hour crawled by. Lily kept Patches close, scratching him behind the ears and whispering reassurances. He seemed content, oblivious to the whirlwind of events that had brought him here. When Sarah and her family finally arrived, the station waiting room erupted in joyous chaos. 2 small children, a boy and a girl, launched themselves at Patches, burying their faces in his fur. Patches! Patches, you're back, they shrieked, their voices thick with emotion. Sarah and her husband, David, stood back for a moment, tears welling in their eyes. Thank you, Sarah said, her voice choked. Thank you so much for finding him. We were so worried. David stepped forward and extended his hand to Lily. We can't thank you enough. The kids were devastated. Lily smiled, her heart swelling with warmth. He's a great dog. I'm just glad we could help. Patches, thoroughly enjoying the attention, licked the children's faces with abandon. The reunion was a scene of pure, unadulterated happiness, a stark contrast to the tense encounter with Agnes earlier that day. Chief Johnson emerged from her office, drawn by the commotion. She watched the reunion with a soft smile playing on her lips. The hardened exterior she often wore seemed to melt away, replaced by a genuine warmth. Once the initial excitement subsided, Sarah and David turned their attention to Chief Johnson, recognizing her uniform. We heard about what happened, David said, shaking his head. That woman? Agnes, right? She's been a thorn in everyone's side for years. Always complaining, always calling the police for the most ridiculous things. Sarah nodded in agreement. We're so grateful you stood up to her. It's about time someone did. Chief Johnson chuckled, a low, rumbling sound. Just doing my job, she said, but there was a glint of satisfaction in her eyes. As the Miller family prepared to leave, Patches in tow, Sarah turned back to Lily. We'd love to take you out to dinner as a thank you, she offered. Whenever you're free. Lily smiled. That's really kind of you, but it's not necessary. Just seeing Patches back with his family is enough. With a final wave, the Millers disappeared out the door, Patches trotting happily beside them. The station felt strangely quiet after they left, the air no longer buzzing with excitement. Chief Johnson turned to Lily, a playful smirk on her face. Well, Rodriguez, you certainly know how to stir things up. Lily laughed, leaning against the reception desk. Just a typical day at the ranch, Chief. Rescuing dogs, thwarting Karens. Speaking of which, Maria said, her eyes twinkling. I heard Agnes called again, complaining about the noise. Apparently, Patches's joyful barking was disturbing her afternoon tea. Lily burst out laughing. You're kidding. Maria shook her head, still smiling. I wish I were. I told dispatch to put her calls straight to voicemail unless it's a genuine emergency. I think she finally got the message. They stood in comfortable silence for a moment, both reflecting on the day's events. The sun was beginning to set, casting long shadows across the station. You know, Lily said, breaking the silence, I think Agnes learned a valuable lesson today. Maybe she'll think twice before calling 911 over a lost dog again. Maria raised an eyebrow, a hint of skepticism in her voice. Maybe, but I wouldn't bet on it. Some people are just determined to be miserable. She paused, then added, but even if she hasn't learned a thing, we did the right thing. And that's what matters. Lily nodded, a sense of satisfaction washing over her. They had reunited a family with their beloved pet, stood up to a bully, and maybe, just maybe, made their little corner of the world a slightly better place. And sometimes that's all you could ask for.